Hello guys, welcome. It's gonna be quick and painless. Total RP3 Extended extends the Total RP3 add-on, makes it a lot more immersive and, in my opinion, enjoyable. Um, and you can create your own player-made roleplay items, as well as campaigns and quests. So, whole story is it's literally there's no there's no end. You only reach for the stars. uh, you're only bound by your own creativity and possibly knowledge of how to do workflows. But you know, there's so many possibilities with this add-on. So let's get to it. Um, First off, you have an inventory. So you have a character inventory and you have your main inventory. So basically what is in your bags, what you have on your profile, and then you have what your character is wearing. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff here to show you, just to give you a quick rundown of the different types of items that you can uh, make and use and see what other people have created. Um, at the moment, though, I'm basically just going to tell you you can wear the items that you make or that other people make. Um, there are also quests that you can start, that other people create, and a lot of, you know, text in the thing. So this quest right here tells me that, here's some flavor text. I received an item, and then I can open my bags, find that item, and I can, you know, sound and everything. It does the whole shebang based off of how much effort the person who created it puts into it. But it, really adds to the experience. Here's a letter by this, person I've never met, blah blah blah, and at the end he says happy stealing, spying, and bribing. So he basically wants us to do something, and he wants to pickpocket guards in Stormwind. So there's all of this stuff that players have created that you can it adds another layer of roleplay to the game. Um, you know, I've been using this for years, and by far this is my favorite add-on. Um, you can create your own items, and it looks really complicated and everything, but you can basically just start completely, fresh. You can create from other certain kinds of things. Um, so if you wanted to just start out with an item, you can make stargazing device and, choose the quality of it, and then any flavor text and the description of it, and then you can choose your icon, and maybe it looks like that, and then how much it's valued in coins, and what its weight is, and whether or not it's wearable. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can create with this. Um, and it also, I'm not sure if Extended does this, but I know they're both made by the same group of individuals that do this. But you can do the NPC speeches where you have an NPC um, emote or say or yell or whisper things like bird waves, and then I don't know, flies off, and then it emotes it like that. So that's pretty cool too as well. It also introduces the drop system. So as long as you're online, all of your items can be accessed, you know, from other people. So you can have things like dead drops if you're a spy, or I guess a mail system in a sense. As long as someone else knows where to look, they can scan for nearby items or stashes and everything, or you can create your own stash there. But you have to be online in order for them to access your stuff, and you can also make sure that it hides from scans, so only certain people who know where it is will know to look for there. But that's a great way to make things like treasure hunts. You could literally create a stash called, loose dirt or something like that, and then in the stash hide an item that is super valuable or something like that. Like I have a tainted ruby here, so that maybe you give coordinates on a map and people have to figure out where in the world that is. And then when they get there, as long as you're online, they have access to it, they can get that item. And, it really makes another really interesting way for roleplay events as well, because it's not all up to the DM to say you found an item and this is the description or whatever. The players themselves can actually pick up the item and trade it with each other, or they have a physical sense of it on their end. Especially with these icons and everything, there's so much that you can do as far as creativity for how things are displayed. Just like in World of Warcraft, how all these items look that way, kind of thing. So it's super cool, really immersive. It is very, user friendly in the sense like left click is to open your inventory and right click is to open your character's inventory and see what your character is wearing. Um, and so like with my character, I have like a necklace on, like a druidic translation necklace. Um, he's also carrying a sealed letter and a crate of supplies and enchanted recluse pops and a bow. So you can create your own items and have them display for other people, and then other people can click on, if they have extended as well, they can click on your character and inspect your character and see what your character is wearing. Maybe your character is wearing a loincloth, or maybe your character is wearing a really, a molten helm, and you can in the flavor text of the helm, it says that you can feel the heat from several feet away or something like that, but it doesn't seem to bother them or something like that. Like, maybe they're a dark iron dwarf or something. But, like, it's something like that where you can really bring your character to life instead of just being like in roleplay, you have your, in basic roleplay, you have your, excuse my item level, you have your helm or whatever, and then you have to say, oh, well, my helm's not actually showing, or this is what I'm actually wearing on my character for roleplay or something like that. You can literally create that item, and then it just, being able to show people that and share that with the world is just phenomenal. And it's the silliest things, like creative supplies is not, the flavor text is very simple, but it adds that little bit of extra goodness to it, the chocolatey goodness. So here's some items that I'll show you, but hopefully that kind of introduced you to the add-on. It's made by the same people who do Total RP3. It's just called Total RP3 Extended. Um, it really brings, so much out of the game. So even if I click over here and go to Eastern Kingdoms, oh, that is not Stormwind. That is not Stormwind. I have so many things on my screen. I want, that's not what I wanted. I'd like to go to Stormwind, please. Okay, Stormwind City. Elwyn Forest. Stormwind City. There we go. So it adds a new thing where you can scan for roleplay and you can see if there are any, roleplay TRP3 players in Stormwind, which there are a lot right now. And then you can also scan for player stashes, things that people have placed around the world and everything. So there's a few stashes here. There's a grave, there's a note. I actually really want to check that out. A sign. Like there's so, people, and there's also items here that aren't even listed too. And then I can scan for my stashes, like I put a few bounty postings and stuff like that in the Mage District and everything, and it looks like people have actually gotten some use out of those. So it's something that you can advertise your own, roleplay services or something like that, or like I said, like have dead drops because I was in a spy guild. So it's like stuff like that where it just brings a little extra to the game. And it's, it's not a heavy add-on either. It's definitely not like, yeah. So it's a really fun add-on. So let's get into the items. Sorry, I keep, getting distracted. So here's one, just kind of like a flavor item. You can have a tiny imp. You can create your own drinks. There are emotes that you can have. The items can have you perform emotes or uh, things in like slash say. Although you do have to be careful when you're trading with people because sometimes it can make you say things that you don't want to say if they're that kind of person. They're not very trustworthy, and that can get you in trouble. With Blizzard if you do that with the wrong people. Obviously, most people are going to be doing things with each other with people that they trust. But so you can drink the booze and then my character drinks some watered down booze kind of thing. Um, but like I've also utilized this where I've made bounty posters um, of characters. This guy is where he was last seen. Some crimes that he's been found for, and then this was a legitimate bounty poster. So I spent time and had gold and everything. So every time I role played, this is my alt, by the way. Anytime I roleplayed this guy, anyone who had the bounty could collect the bounty. I would god mod a little bit and I would allow them to collect the bounty because obviously if they, wanted to get 3,200 gold, but it would give people an incentive to actively look for people. If my original goal was to have so many people involved that, we could have people looking for each other and actively kind of bring back that sense of, you know, as if our characters were still, in the game all the time and stuff like that. But that was when I no lifed the game, so that's not a very realistic goal to have by any means. But it's a very neat idea, especially if someone's like, "Oh, I know you're online. Can you log on to this tune? And I'd like to roleplay with you about this kind of thing." So I think it would be really neat, and I had all this stuff here. But so yeah, so like I would update this, blah blah blah, and it kind of provided another thing level of things. There's also a lot of stuff when it comes to combat. Like with roleplay, you can do like a roll. You can roll dices in this game with these add-ons. With this add-on, you can create dice. So things like healing yourself, with potions and bandages. You can dress your target's wounds. So if I'm targeting myself, I dress Nick Rad's wounds with a prepared bandage, and then it increases health, so that the DM sees, okay, that's how much it increases the health. Or it could be like it has a chance to increase your health by 1 to 3 kind of thing. So it's like all of these little kind of flavor things that it's not just like a solid, black or white thing. It's got some gray areas where you can kind of mess with things and create your own style to things and everything. So, and I'm saying things a lot, but um, there's a lot of variability in the actual, item creation and everything like that. You can also do things like create books and poems and letters, as I did with the bounty. You can do things like you can create your own menu. Um, say you're a merchant, you can create your own stock list or items, and you can just trade them with people, and then you can see if they want to sell or buy or anything like that. You can create flyers for things, flyers for events. Maybe there's a theater performance going on down the street or in a different district or something like that, and you want people to come, then maybe you would create a flyer for it and then hand it out to everyone with extended. So it also does that. You don't have to send 5 paragraphs of information, who, what, when, where, why. You can just put it into an item and then trade that item with everyone, and then you can do all sorts of things with that. Like, it's a great way to have things like if you want guild information, you can just create a book and then send that out to people and then they can read it on their own time. Um, and they have that kind of they have that with them so that they don't have to feel overwhelmed by having to go to like a Discord server or something like that. But there are also items that you can create that are designed for crafting. Um, there's items that you can make. So say for instance, uh, you want to make a stew. But the stew will provide food, basically like cooking. But it requires you to have certain items in your inventory, just like regular WoW items. Um, so maybe you need eldritch vegetables and like darkened fangs or something like that to create like I don't know, like a frothy potion or something like that, or a frothy stew or something. And so, you can create items specifically designed to just be for crafting reagents. Or you can just create them as, general treasure kind of things. Or, and I know you're probably seeing things like worth 5 marks on my end, like how what the marks are and stuff like that. Like in my old guild. So these are all items that I created for my old guild. Um, and marks were our guild's currency, and we used that for giving out roleplay rewards like free Rule of Cool tokens during events and um, boosts to attack and everything, and resources for the gangs that we had and stuff. So we used that as a currency, but marks were also worth actual gold. 1 mark is 2 gold. So people could earn these treasure items such as crawling blood and then sell it to our guild vendors, which were specific people who had characters who would buy, treasure items basically just as regular vendors. Um, and they would sell these items to them and get actual gold. They'd get 10 gold just for this little item here, and they'd get 3 of them during an event or something like that. They just pick them up. We create flavor items and everything. So it was really cool because then you can have something to look forward to. You're not just going for the goal of getting the treasure chest at the end of the quote unquote dungeon. You are also picking up, spider webs or, you know, ancestral bones or, like the random kind of little bits where, it makes it worth and you can trade those. Maybe there's a character who is absolutely obsessed with herbs and you happen to come across a garden in the thing and you're like, okay, DM, can I pick some flowers or something like that for so and so? It's like, okay, sure. So then, the DM maybe has like a loot table of like items that are available for this area or something like that, or just comes up with on the spot, just like how I did a second ago, where you literally can just create an item and then the DM can decide, maybe it's worth a couple of gold. So then, 2 marks or something like that, 1 mark, whatever, something small kind of thing, and then they just create that item, and then the person has that and they can go role play with someone else and be like, hey, I got you flowers. So it's stuff like that, like where you can really promote a lot of role play within guild and with other people in the server. um it's just it's sky's the limit for that, and even then it's World of Warcraft, it's beyond the sky. Keep dancing. um And so, like, with combat kind of thing, like, you can have items, like, I have my bow here, right? So I have my bow, but it requires arrows in it to be able to use the bow. So, that really also kind of adds to, like, if you want to have, like, professions in, like, in the guild or something like that, where with roleplay or whatever, have, like, an alchemist who makes potions. And in order to make a certain kind of potion, you have to get a recipe, or, like, I haven't really figured out how to do a recipe or something like that. Maybe you have to have like a certain certification kind of thing in order to make a certain item or something like that from an event kind of thing. I don't know. But like stuff like that where um you can really work towards things. Maybe a blacksmith can make arrows for a certain kind of weapon, or, will make, like, an engineer will make grenades or whatever that you can use to fight NPCs with, or even, traps that, a survival hunter can set. You can physically create a trap in game, but also create that item that, when used, will automatically emote for you and it'll roll like out of 10 or something like that. And if you roll over a 7, then you destroy the campsite or something, like the bad guy's campsite or something like that. So it's like stuff like that where you can really get into it, and you know, when you use, a gun, it maybe you can use bullets with it if you wanted to get that technical with it. Or maybe even the gun has a certain amount of uses before it breaks, or every time you use it, it has a chance to destroy the gun, but it's super powerful. So then it has the players think in combat, maybe is this worth it? And they start to weigh the risks versus the rewards. And you kind of have a little bit more of a sense of, you know, you don't just go in knowing that your weapons are always going to hit, or if they're always going to hit, there's nothing going to happen to them. Like, it kind of creates that sense of value with the items because you've worked toward them, or you've saved up the roleplay currency, you know, enough to get that item, that legendary, two-handed axe or something like that. And you finally get it and you absolutely annihilate, the bad guys or something like that. And you can coat your weapon with like purple slime that, makes it glint very prettily, but also adds like 2 attack to your weapon or something like that as a poison. There's so many things that you can specify, but also be very general about. You can have a stick, and then every time you use it, you know, it just rolls a dice, and then if your dice rolls higher than the other person's, then you win, kind of thing. It can still be it like that, but instead of you having to type out blah 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 rolls or blah blah blah, swings a stick, and then ending the emote and then rolling, and then it, instead of doing that, it cuts out that middleman. You don't have to do 2 different things. You can literally just right click the item, or and they can even have like different variations in the emotes and stuff like that too, depending on how complex it is. The maker makes it, but there's so much to it that you know you don't have to worry about um, it being boring, in the sense, as long as the person who makes it puts in the effort to to really work on it. But you can do other things with it. You can create like music boxes, for example. And I'm gonna have to change my settings real quick for you to hear it. But I have a music box here, for example. So this was an item that was given out as, so for my events when I hosted them, we gave out one epic or um, rare item, and then like 2 uncommon items, and then like 5 or 6 common. So this was one of the items where you can play different songs depending on what kind of note cards you have in it. So, it describes, the song that's playing, and then, maybe I have a mood where I want to listen to the ocean one. So then I can listen to that one. It's kind of an ethereal kind of thing, right? And then maybe I want to go back to the sandy dunes one. Or then maybe I want to stop altogether. So then I just press the one that stops, and then now it's playing the Draenor one again. So, maybe you want to collect all 7 of them or something like that, so you can have all of them here, kind of thing. And I don't know, I think it's really cool. Like, I love this add-on, and I'm a huge advocate for it. Um, you can have things like containers, so just like this, like where it's a container. So you can have like bags and little, cubby holes or crates, your chests, and just like how I opened that tainted ruby, I get a precious ruby now, or like sticky sand, which is, you know, trash item, or you get blue paint. So maybe there's a cartographer profession or something like that, or someone who works with cartography or is an inscriptionist or something that would value the blue paint for something that requires it in its crafting, or you know maybe that person would pay more than 3 marks for blue paint or something like that. So for whatever reason, it creates this kind of, just like how in WoW where you have all these items, obviously not, tons of trash items, but it provides some flavor to things and kind of variability to the monotony of uh, basic roleplay. And I feel like it enhances it instead of takes it away or anything like that. With the combat, it's a little bit different because it makes the combat much more concise, but also allows for people to, freely emote. They just have to uh, press a dice roll, and then instead of having to type roll out of 5 or 10 or 15 or whatever, they can just right click this and say, okay, did I still get hit, or, what, or I'd like to sneak past the guards, and maybe this is your special skill for your character. Instead of rolling out of a 10, which is the basic skill, you roll out of a, you know, 20, and where the minimum that you can get is a 2, kind of thing. Or maybe you are a rogue, so you automatically get, 4 5-face dies, and you can just have the add-on itself do that work for you instead of you having to add them all up. You just roll the dice, have the dice speak. So then roll for sneaking, get a total of 10. Maybe you needed a 5 to pass, and so then you get to sneak past, and then you can emote. You know, maybe he lowers his head and tries to pickpocket the goblin. So pickpocketing could be a skill, and then I would just roll for the basic skill. Maybe I needed a 2 to, do that, and then if I did that, then I could emote blah blah blah, takes that. And then maybe the DM would say, okay, this is what you get. And then the DM trades you sticky sand and blue paint. Or, maybe the goblin had I don't know, had a bounty. So then that gets you thinking, why did the goblin have a bounty, of this character? Why were they looking for this person? Or wow, that's an odd item to have for that character. So it's just like how in D&D, I haven't actually played D&D, but it's just like how in D&D where you can collect all these items and trade with people, and instead of it just being words on a paper, you have visual kind of connections with it. Um, and I have hundreds of items here, and I have you know, tons more outside of the game already made in a document because I have no life. But there's, so many things that you can create with this add-on, including the quests and everything, where you can, you know, have it to where it updates just like a quest in World of Warcraft, where you go to a specific location and it updates for you. That's a little bit more tricky with the questing and everything, but the actual you know, the actual gameplay is very similar, except for when you have characters talk to an NPC, for example, it's just like how in Storyline, I believe the add-on is. Um, it's more immersive. You can have the players choose their outcomes. You can give players a choice. You can have them, when they interact with an NPC, they get certain items, or just like how in like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, or like in Elder Scrolls Online, where you can choose the outcomes that the creator makes. So the only limit for that would be, how much effort or energy, or what branches the creator of the quest decided to make. software. So tons of potential. But for now, thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble on and on and on. I hope you guys enjoyed um, as much as I loved making this. Um, and until next time, I hope this was fruitful. So have a Nick Radical day, guys.